Everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, as promised in the last video, we are going to be looking far ahead into the future to take a look at Halley's Comet and maybe a couple of other events if I have time. To start with, let's find the Comet 1P Halley, the first sort of confirmed periodical comet in the sky. There it is. Now it is, and we can see it over here, 35 times further from us than we are from the sun, and there's not much difference between its distance from us and its distance from the sun. Because it looks closer to the sun, we'll assume that it is on the far side of the sun, but a difference of a third of an AU compared to 35 AUs, it's pretty far from us and the sun at the moment. We are going to have to wait in real life another few decades before it comes back around, but this is roughly where it is in space at the moment. So it looks like it's in the constellation of Canis Minor, or at least very close to it. Procyon is the brightest star in Canis Minor, and if we go way out here, we can't even see it. So this is it's a little ball of rock, really, compared to a planet or most moons. It is only a small thing, a comet. We can see down here the core diameter 10 kilometers. So this is 10 kilometers across, which isn't a crazy big distance. There's 10 kilometers isn't much compared with most things in space being thousands or hundreds of thousands of kilometers, tens of thousands, in the case of the Earth at least. It is going to be very far away for a very long time. And if I were to to zoom in, make sure we're zoomed in on the comet here, come back in time just a little bit, if I were to go through day by day until we got to 2061, that would take an awfully long time. We can see that as we orbit around the sun, it doesn't seem to change position much, at least on the course of a year. It pretty much follows the fixed background of the stars. But over much longer timescales, this is an object which is orbiting the sun. So let's bring ourselves way forward here, decades and decades into the future, up to 2061. There we go. And this orbital line is after coming up because it is visible. There it is, visible in the sky. Now we're looking at it here during the day. There is its sort of the loop. That's where it turns around and starts heading back out of the solar system again. So let's get it over to that point. There we go, of its closest approach to the sun, and that phenomenal tail. Very different from the faint tail we were able to see of Comet 12P Pons Brooks in the last video. Of course, you can go back and take a look at that if you missed it. We'll pull ourselves back here to sunrise, and I will just double check because I've been hopping around quite a bit. Yeah, we are back in Ireland and turning back on the atmosphere. Looks like we're in a dark sky here. Could be misleading. I do want to be as honest as possible with our view here. Let's come back into the city, which, is going to affect things. It is going to make things look worse, as it always does. But there is still very clearly a comet in the sky with its tail visible to the naked eye. This is why people rave about Halley's Comet. This is why it's such a big deal when it comes back around, and why it is so, so important to see it. This is, again, it's a short period comet. Technically, this has a short period compared to the comets whose periods are measured in hundreds of years and centuries. This comet, should be down here somewhere. It will tell me exactly somewhere here, but it's, over 70 years. It is still a long period of time for a human. There's the period, 75 years. Yeah, over 70 years. Still a long time for us. So this is pretty much a once-in-a-lifetime event. If you get to see it when you're very young, you might get to see it come back, but 75 years isn't over the human lifespan or anything like that. But if you don't catch it quite young, if you don't get to see Halley's Comet until you're 20 or 30, you have to live another 75 years after that. It gets a little bit harder. So we can see here, there's the tail fading as it starts to leave the solar system. And we can see it there with quite a big bright tail as it's still coming into its approach to the sun. We can see there the two tails kind of diverted a little bit, one trailing more behind the comet, one following the solar wind a little bit more closely. That happens. Heavier particles and less charged particles of the comet, they're going to be slightly less affected by the solar wind, but the comet is still getting melted by the sun, and that is still going to cause little bits to fall off and generate that tail. So here we go. Is that it starting to be visible over there? So it's quite bright there at sunset, and we're already starting to see something of, I hope, the comet. Yeah, Comet 1P Halley. So this is how it would look at sunset. I'll bring us back a few more days because it will be slightly further from the sun. That means it's not going to be as bright or as impressive, but it does mean we get to see it under a greater level of darkness. So there we go. This is pretty much the middle of the summer, or close to the middle of the summer in 2061, and there is the Comet Halley, and it is going to get closer and closer to the sun, developing that crazy, crazy big tail, and we can see it there at sunset. And hopefully it'll still be there at sunrise when it's, yeah, pretty much above the sun from our perspective. Let's see if we can catch it at sunrise as well. Yeah, just about still there. And this is from the city. That is how bright and prominent it's calculated to be. There's a tapestry with this comet on it. Like, it is an amazingly bright comet, from what I've been told. I was not alive the last time Comet Halley came around. 75 years before 2061. Was I alive? I was not. I was not alive in 1986. That's older even than me. But Comet Halley has come around before, and it does seem to regularly come around. It will be back. But if you miss it coming around in 2061, like I said, 75 years could take quite a while. There are other events that happen infrequently that aren't quite as infrequent as this. So while we're looking into the future, I'm going to bring things back a little bit to 2032, which is when we're going to have a transit of Mercury. Now, the Comet Halley, it's going to be visible. It's going to be visible to the naked eye for a while. It's going to be visible through binoculars and telescopes for even longer. We're talking days and days here, even a couple of weeks, I believe, where it's going to be visible in the sky. But the transit of Mercury that we're hopefully going to see here, it only lasts a few hours. It is a much, much quicker phenomenon. And at the moment, I don't even know if it's going to be visible in Ireland. One of the recent transits of Mercury was either the 2019 or 2016 transit of Mercury was visible from Ireland, and I know because I got to see it with a very, very special telescope known as a Coronado, a telescope that is specially and specifically designed for looking straight at the sun. I've said it numerous times that you should never point a telescope directly at the sun. There we go. You should never point a telescope directly at the sun. You shouldn't, unless it has literally been purpose built for that very reason. Some telescopes are designed to look at the sun. We do need to study the sun as well. Being able to see its corona, being able to count its sunspots, all of these things. It looks like the transit of Mercury is going to happen very early in the morning for us here in Ireland, but it will be worth it. I don't usually say that you need to get up at, where are we? At 9 o'clock in the morning, that's not too bad. I don't normally say that you need to get up at 3 o'clock to see Saturn. You can wait until it comes up in the evening, but transits of Mercury are less frequent. The last one I do believe was 2019. Next one's 2032. They're frequent enough that you can catch a couple in your lifetime. Hopefully I will get to see this one as well. Hopefully I'll still be here in 2032 to see this transit of Mercury. But they are rare, and they are also very, very difficult to observe. You need a special telescope. You can't see this with your naked eye because Mercury blocks out such a tiny, tiny portion of the sun. You should never look at a solar eclipse with your naked eye when most of the sun's light is being blocked out. You certainly shouldn't look at a transit of Mercury when the dot of Mercury is smaller than many sunspots. We can see some large sunspots here. They're simulated. It's very hard to predict sunspots. We don't know they're exactly going to be there. It looks like this transit starts before the sun rises for us here in Ireland. That's fine. Catching the transit, midway through isn't too bad. So here we are, Mercury just crossing onto the disk of the sun at 6:45 in the morning, which at that time, I guess the sun is still not risen for us here in Ireland. And way over here, well, the edge, there is Mercury leaving the disk of the sun at about 11 o'clock, pretty close to midday. So this does last for hours, but only on this specific day. And it only happens every few decades. It's still, well, not always every few decades. It's a little bit irregular, and all of the right things have to line up. Our tilt, Mercury's tilt, how inclined we are to the ecliptic, how inclined Mercury is, all of these things. So there was a pretty small gap between 2016 and 2019, much bigger gap up until 2032. So these are infrequent, but not as infrequent as comets, and that is one we're going to get to see. And, zooming right in here, that's the planet Mercury, completely showing its dark side to us, completely backlit by the sun, so very difficult to observe. The observation of transits, Mercury and Venus transiting in front of the sun, were very important for early astronomy, figuring out things about the solar system and figuring things out about these smaller planets. But the transits of Venus are much, much, much rarer. But I will leave that topic for a future video. I hope you did enjoy this video. I hope you get a chance to see Comet 1P Halley in 2061 and this transit of Mercury in 2032. I will, of course, under the assumption that I'm still going to be making these videos in that many decades, I will be making videos about these things as they occur. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to get notifications about those videos in a few decades' time. And also do like this video if you enjoyed this quick look into the future. If you'd like to read a little bit about these topics, you can take a look on my website, queebeanscontent.ie. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.